Hi there, thank you for tuning into this video essay. Let's start this discussion off with a little thought experiment. In a second, I'm going to say a word, and I want you to form an image in your mind of whatever it is that first pops into your head. Ready? What do you see when I say the word dwarf? Chances are, the image in your mind right now looks a little something like this. This is how we have seen dwarfs portrayed, either mythically or comedic. Think of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or more recently The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But this view stems all the way back to medieval times. How come then that we with our 2022 woke mindset still see this when we think about dwarfism instead of a more realistic image? Today's topic will be Peter Dinklage and what his star image tells us about the representation of dwarfism in Hollywood today. But before we get to him, first a short history lesson. The mythical term dwarf stems from Celtic, French, and English folklore. But this demonized view of dwarfism continued all the way to the 20th century's freak show. In this era, little people were often ridiculed, othered, and put on display for entertainment purposes. This was the period where many derogatory terms for people with dwarfism were coined. Worst of all, the M word, which is on a similar level as the N or F slur, but is not similarly censored in the media. Although these freak shows have long disappeared, the societal view of dwarfism is still strongly interwoven with entertainment and myth. Peter Dinklage is, at the moment, probably one of the best-known people in the entertainment industry with dwarfism. Most famous for his role in A Game of Thrones, but also having starred in many other screen and theater productions, he rose to fame because of his skills as an actor and performer. Born with a form of dwarfism called achondroplasia, he wished this not to influence his career. However, from the start, he was very critical of his role selection and actively avoided projects that continued hateful stereotypes of little people. Instead, Dinklage aimed to take more complex roles that were better suited to his acting abilities and affirmed his image as star's professional, but this often came with many struggles. Scholar Russell Mauve described Dinklage's star image as a struggling but naturally talented actor who overcomes the bigotry to break barriers in his profession. But Dinklage's career exemplifies the complexities that come with the star image, representation, and advocacy. First of all, despite having a non-normative body, Peter Dinklage is still considered classically attractive in many other ways. Taking selectively fitted roles that acknowledge his non-normativity, but at the same time highlight his wit, sex appeal, and charisma, won him the GQ's Man of the Year in 2011. He embodies the dichotomies of what is considered attractive in contemporary Hollywood. This connects to the question of what representation actually means, as it can be the outcome of the authorship by the star themselves, but can also be put upon a star by other media or spectators. In the case of Dinklage, he has always openly denied being a spokesperson, saying, "As an actor, I just like to play juicy roles. The responsibility for social change should be put on some people who are actually making decisions or policies." Nevertheless, different media have put this role of spokesperson upon Peter Dinklage because of his condition. According to the Washington Post, Dinklage has recently seemed to be more accepting of this role as advocate, and it is true that he has become more outspoken about society's treatment of little people.
I was a little taken back by they were very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Snow White, yeah.
Seven Dwarfs.
Sure.
So take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of seven dwarves living in a cave. What the fuck are you doing, man?
This comment Dinklage made about Disney's new project on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs caused Disney to announce they would take the characters of the Seven Dwarfs in a new direction. Although this may seem very progressive, it was again met with criticism, this time by others within the dwarfism community.
Huge film. So he, by being progressive in his mind and what he was trying to do and says he's trying to do is really doing the opposite and taking dreams away and potential roles away from seven dwarf actors. And I think it's a shame. I really do. And I think it doesn't make any sense to me that we're taking one person's voice for the whole community. And I just feel like it's not right.
Yeah.
This confirms Murph's theory that Peter Dinklage is a good example of how stars can affirm a politically correct awareness of disability stereotypes, and yet can also be subject to those same stereotypes. To relate back to the history of dwarfism, we can see today how many little people's livelihoods are still heavily dependent on connection to mythology portrayed in entertainment. So, until more complex roles open up for little people actors, ones that perhaps do not have the same leading man features as Dinklage does, Hollywood's inclusivity is still far from what is desired. Even if the rest of Hollywood sees Dinklage as a sign of progress or representation, the community's reactions show that this is not a singular or simplistic matter in any way, and that Hollywood still has a long way to go.